Hello, everybody. Let's jump right in. So, this is the application that we have. Want to add a status bar for the user so that it tells them if, let's say, there's nothing selected here, it'll tell them that they need to select a path. And if they're the same path, it tells them that they can't be the same. And a couple other pieces of information. Not a lot. Let's get started. So the first thing we're going to need is a label. We'll put it right down here at the bottom. It's just going to be a label. And we'll put it on the root. And the text will be equal to a variable. We'll make it equal to app info. App info is a good name for it. And that's all we need. Let's go ahead and put it on the screen. So dot grid. And we'll do row is equal. I think it's 5 and column is going to be 1. Yep. Okay, so let's define that variable as a string var. We'll define it with the string var method. Let's see here, and the initial value. It doesn't need initial value, but we'll do something here so we can see it on the screen. Hello world. Let's see what that looks like. So we can't just put the. So that's the label of the string variable as the object. So let's quit out of here. Let's see what we did wrong. Is it, do I just have to say get here? I think I just have to say get. So calling that get method there. And so there it is. It's right at the bottom. Let's pad that. See how that looks. Okay, that's a little bit nicer. Let's go ahead and give our window a little bit more space there. See how that looks. Okay, that's looking nice. Okay, so now that we have a label and there's a variable in it, let's go ahead and let's get some stuff for the screen. So this mainly, these definitions don't have to be in this loop here. So let's put that down here where it belongs. I've seen it both ways on the internet for people that use Kinter. They either put all their definite or their functions inside that loop or not. I don't. I think that it's fine putting all the functions outside the loop. So we'll define a new function. And the name will be select app info. And we're just going to do some if else statements here that say what we want as the user's using app, what we want it to say to the user. So the first thing we want to do is if both of those fields are, let's take a look at this. If both of these fields are empty, then we want to say that they're the user needs to select both of those paths, or if one of them or the other one, then the user needs to pick one or the other. So if name directory in .get is equal to an empty string, and if, so put it in, not an if, and name directory out at .get is equal to an empty string, then what do we say? We say appinfo.set please select path in and path out. Okay. So then elif name directory, and we'll just get one of them, name directory in .get is equal to an empty string, then it'll be please select path in. And let's just grab these two lines. And if name directory out.get appinfo.select, let's say out. Okay, so that looks good. Now the line that I really wanted to put in here, the reason why we created this label in the first place was if the two paths are the same. So we don't want to have the path in and the path out be the same, because the app's not going to work right. So we'll write name directory out is equal to .get is equal to name directory in .get. Then we'll do a warning here. Path out cannot be the same as path in. And then, so that's all we need right now. I don't want to bog it down with a whole bunch of, this is going to be used later too as well, for while the app is processing the images, it'll display stuff to the same field, the same status bar. So this is the status the status information that's going to be going to the user while they're selecting the folders, and then when it starts to process the images, it's going to switch tracks. So let's just finish this if else off with we can just say something simple like the path in and path out are accepted. So let's see what this looks like in the app. So if I choose a path in, I still have hello there world. But if I don't have one for this one here, okay, it's not. So quit. Oh, I have to call it. So let's call the method, or call the function right after we choose the path, so that when we hit the path in button, it calls this function here. So let's call it here. And when we choose hit the path out button, this is where we choose this. So let's call the function here. And we also want to call it when the program starts up, because if we save the default values with with nothing in them as empty strings, and we want to display that, so we can put that in. I could put it in right there. Where would be the best place? Actually, I'm going to put it in right after we create that string variable right here. So seems like a logical place. So let's take a look. And we don't need that hello world in there, because now we're essentially it's nothing. So the arguments for this string variable, you don't have to specify the initial value. It's an optional argument. So let's run it. So warning, path out cannot be the same because none selected. I see. So ideally, that will just be empty when we start. So here, let's quit. Let's make these empty. File save. So please select path out. Why did it not save that one? I'll save. Okay, please select path in and path out. So that's working. So if we pick a path in, then it should say it did not update. It should say please select path out instead of that. So let's see what's going on here. Okay, so I found the error in the logic. It's this. When I made this label, it's supposed to be text variable, and that's why it wasn't working with this .get, because the text variable takes the app info. So that should fix the issue there. Let's hit play. And so now we have select path in, path out. If we choose it in path, then it'll say select path out. If we choose an out path, path in and path out accepted. And if we choose the same path for both, then path out cannot be the same as path in. Okay, so it's working. Let's set these as defaults. Set as default, set the way they'll be in there when we need them later. Okay, so the next step, when we're looking at it, let's look at this again. So when we're looking at it, we're going to start the process, and then we want this button, we want to reconfigure this button to be a stop button. And then we want to do some logic so that we can actually stop the process from going. And that's going to require a little bit of work for the threading module in Python. There's a little bit of work there. So let's quit out of this and let's get started on that. So when we hit this button here, so this, in order for this to be configured, we have to initialize it, then call it. So we're going to take this this grid off. Basically, what the grid here is doing is it's putting it onto the screen, but we have to make it. It has to be an object first. So the way we do that is just call it, put it on the screen from the object and not from the from this right here. And we're going to go ahead and put this into one, since we split that up, we can make this a one-liner again. That's just going to make it easier to work with. All right, and see if we broke anything. Nope, everything's still working. So now let's reconfigure that button inside. When we call this, it's going to take us to this function here. So let's configure it right in the top of this. We don't need this save number anymore because we changed this. This should be changed. Changed this in the last video, but the changes aren't showing up here. So this is going to be pick. All right, that takes care of that change, and then we don't need the save number because we're not using it with that change. Everything else looks good. This input path we don't need because we're defining the input path as here. With the pick, and it's the name directory in.get. Yeah. So let's put that line in here. So it's run. I don't know why my editor is it has these indents wrong. It's bugging me, so I'll just fix that. So to reconfigure the button, we call the button, and then we use the configure method. And we'll configure the text as a stop. And we also reconfigure what the function call for the button. So we'll do that too, and we'll have it call a stop function that we're going to define here in just a second. So stop tool will be the new function. Let's go ahead and put that up here. The stop tool is just going to set an object. So we'll hit pass for now. Let's go ahead and create that. So when you hit the stop, when you hit the stop button, we're going to need to put an interrupt here in this for loop that says to break out. But before we do that, we'll need the truthy falsy value, and threading has a special object that holds that, and we're going to define it right here, right before these labels. We'll do so if the event is true, then we're going to break. So I want to name this like stop event, because when the stop event is true, then break. So threading dot the object itself is called the event, and so now we have this stop event created. So that's the object. Let's take a look at what that looks like. So print stop event. So if I run this inside of our, you see there's an object here that it printed out. So if I print out, the way to get the truthy value is just to call the method isSet, and that'll give you the value. So let's take a look at that. So it starts out as false, and that's perfect. That's perfect for what we need. So let's get rid of that line. And let's make our break statement inside of our function. So right at the top here, if stop event is set. And what are we going to do? We're just going to break. I have a hard time spelling if. So if stop event is set, so if this is true, then break. Right now it's false. So the way we're going to, so in this function that we're calling earlier, we're just going to say stop event dot set, and that'll cause it, that'll flag it true, and it'll break us out of our loop. And then what we want to do is go ahead and put in, when it breaks, it's going to jump out of this for loop and it's going to end right here. So the logic we want to put in here is just a few lines. App so now we're taking control of that app info, and we're going to print the line about the process. So it's going to be we're going to be double using it. So process stopped. So appinfo.set process stopped. But if so there's two ways that it can break out of this loop. One is if it breaks, and the other is if it runs through all of the images. So for here, to start out, if the folder is empty and it runs through, we might not catch that it was empty to start, and we might think there's a problem with the program. So we're going to do a if else statement here, but in a one liner. If picklet, so if the pick list was empty, then we're going to print folder is empty. And that just means that when our program ran for the first time, it generates this list from everything that's in the folder. We use OS to grab everything that's in the folder and make the list. Well, if the folder is empty, then we want to display that it's going to run through this real fast and say folder is empty. Otherwise, there's stuff in the folder, and it's going to start processing them, but then we break through and it's going to go to process stopped. So now after we display that message, we'll go ahead and reconfigure that button. But with threading, so let's go ahead. With threading, you have to reinitialize that thread, make a new instance of it. If you don't, you can't rerun a thread that's already been ran. So let's make a new instance of the thread. Because with this thread, we can just make a new instance and run it, because it's not going to cause any problems with how the thread is built. And then now we're going to reconfigure the button. So we had changed it to stop, but now we're changing it back to run. And then our command is we're just going to point it right at this instance of the thread we just created. And we're going to run the start, the thread start. And we want to, since we set that event, so now it's true, we want to set it back to false. So stop event dot clear. And we also want to put in a little message here that says to the user that everything is running. So app info.set processing. All right. So cross your fingers. Let's see if this works. We're going to run it. So we got in and out. Let's go ahead and start the tool that says processing. Let's see if it's actually working. Okay, we're back to turtles again. So we're running the turtles and the backgrounds are being removed. That's good. If we hit stop, what happens? It says process stop. The turtles are stopping, so it's not processing. So if we hit run, okay, so now they're processing again. And if we hit stop, everything's right. Process stopped. Now, if we want to change this, let's say we get rid of all these, so we delete these, and then we're still in the tool, and we hit run again. It's just going to start the thread over, and that's perfect. That's exactly what I want. So let's hit stop. If we choose the select path in, so this status bar is working even though we've been running it. So AI content, let's do in, and then let's choose in for the out. Okay, so everything's working good. Let's choose this out again. Oops. Says default, run. Okay, stop, quit. Okay. That was easy peasy. So let's see here. Let's go over this code, make sure I have everything I wanted to do today. Yeah, that's it. In the next video, I do want to. There's a few things I wanted to take care of, but we'll take care of that next time. Thanks for watching. I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you next time.